rest of my house is like, I took them out. I didn't. It's not right there. When you can't even answer the question. I mean, I don't think either one of those bad quarterbacks. It's just teams haven't been great. You know, press. Oh yeah. I'm just waiting. It might take Hunter actually. Yeah. You know, he's still available.
All right, thanks for being here. We'll get started with a quick statement from Coach, and then we'll jump into questions.
Just a couple things before I start talking about Iowa State. I try not to get emotional this first one. We lost a great Red Raider in Jody Brooks. I know a lot of you probably know him if you're a West Texas person, man, and I just love his family. He's the guy that made us hats that said run the damn ball. I hate it for them and just appreciate everything he's done. If you go down the back hallway going into the recruiting lounge, it's Jody and his wife and the support that they had for Texas Tech, and their names on it. And then, just keep Bryce. He's great. Talked to him this morning, Bryce Ramirez, but as everybody knows, I think we put it out that he had to have the rod removed. Luckily, everything structurally, he's in great shape. He was actually walking right after the surgery, because the bones have been repaired and everything, but there was an infection. So we're hoping that that's not a season-ending injury, but he's doing really well. But just both of those, just for Texas Tech and Red Raider Nation, man, keep the family of Jody's in your thoughts, and of course Bryce, man, he's such a big part of this. And talking about Iowa State, I have a lot of respect for this staff, had a lot of respect for Coach Campbell. I mean, what he has done, it seems like for years, every big job that came open, his name was in it just because of the success that he's had at Iowa State. And he does an incredible job building a culture. They're a really tough team. They're very physical, excited to play those guys. And then, he's got a quarterback that's playing at a high level. They've got 2 NFL receivers. They've got 3 running backs that they rotate in. All 3 of them do a phenomenal job and have, a bright future in this game. And then his DC is one of the best in the country. I mean, he's a guru whenever it comes to, the odd stack and the things that he's kind of morphed that defense in. There's a reason that they're undefeated right now. And so we got a really tough opponent, but a great opportunity. We need a great week of preparation. We're a little banged up, but we feel like a lot of those guys are questionable. I don't see any of those questionable guys not being able to play on Saturday. So it's good, good that we're going to get those guys back. Kind of hadn't talked a lot about injuries. Doing that, but I will tell you nothing structurally is wrong with Barron's non-throwing shoulder. He's got a lot of movement back in it, and we'll see how he feels tomorrow. If he'll practice tomorrow, he'll practice Wednesday, but feel really good about that. We were nervous that there was a break, couldn't see anything, and then so structurally he's good to go on his non-throwing shoulder. But it's going to be tough, but we're excited. We've got a good opportunity, and it's going to be just like every other week, man. The Big 12's a wild, and we'll be ready for it. So with that, open up for questions.
Coach, this wasn't something that was addressed after the game. You probably didn't even know about it at the time. But could you tell us I guess, your thoughts on Reese's shirt and what maybe you had to say to him afterwards after you found out?
Yeah, I didn't know any. I really didn't. At the time, we were told at the end, with him, we have addressed it. We will continue to address it. We're going to address it internally. It's always one of the things as far as whenever you're dealing with young adults, really any adults, I guess, the choices that we make and when we make them and when they're when you should. I always think that the greatest thing about football, basketball, sports like that, it's a team sport, and you always want to make sure that you're putting your team in the best situation. And there's places that you express your opinions, and I don't think necessarily that's the time or the place. And so as far as with him, we're going to deal with it and dealt with it on Saturday and continue to talk through stuff and find the best solution and keep it in-house and take care of it that way.
Also, I guess with Will.
Now, I am going to vote, and I think everybody should. I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for. That's my, personal decision. I think Debbie, we tried last week, and there was a long line. She chose lunchtime, and that's not probably a good time to go vote. But I do encourage everybody to vote.
As far as Will, if he does need to go, how important were those reps this past weekend, knowing how difficult it is to go into Ames and get a win, which you've done in the past?
Yeah. Man, it was huge. And golly, how special is that young man? It's pretty impressive because I don't think there was a point in the game that the game was too big. I know there. I totally understand it. I welcome criticism, and I get it. But the one question afterwards, and I appreciate the questions, guys. When y'all ask me questions, trust me. I mean, I've got a job to do. Y'all have got a job to do, and we're trying to do it together. And I think y'all know whenever it comes to me, the times that I've spent with y'all individually and together, I try to help you guys do your job. But, one of the questions was about Will carrying the ball at the last. Well, thank God he pulled that one for the touchdown, when we ran zone read. There was not a moment in there. And now he's going to go back. That's what I love. This dude, man, he and I have had some phenomenal conversations since he has been here. And he wants to be coached. And he wants to be coached at a high level. And he wants to be criticized. And there was some stuff that we talked about throughout that game that, like, hey, where were your eyes here? Here we could have gone here. But as far as the moment, it was never too big for him. That dude's going to be really, really special. I'm glad he's a Red Raider.
Coach Sean and Justin and Jared.
Coach, what are those specific traits of Will Hammond that have shown him in practice that has propelled him to be Barron's backup?
The thing that I love about him, it's just like today, as he gets the game plan, he's going to go into the indoor. It's usually going to be him, Kirk Bryant, who's our assistant quarterbacks coach, and Micah, and they're going to go through the game plan together, and now with the possibility of him being even a bigger role, there's probably going to be some more guys in there with him, to continue to create the chemistry between each other. But, I mean, he is this very Will's a unique person because he's I don't want to say like awkward, he's different, and so whenever you're sitting there going, how many people can relate to him, and people just gravitate to him. He is very serious about being great. He spends a lot of time. It was really cool, a moment last year in the spring. I said, how are you doing? He said, Coach, you told me in recruiting that I had this access to all of this stuff. I didn't really understand that it was 24/7, meaning you'll go into the indoor. There were times in the spring, if you're walking through the indoor on a Friday night, Will's in there throwing balls to Coy Aiken or whoever else wants to catch, and just stuff like that. I mean, he's a guy that wants to be great, and so he's got a lot of things. And then he's got athletically all the things that you want. He's got a big arm. He can run the ball. He's got enough speed to where, he can convert or keep a play going in the pocket. And so, he's got a bright future for us.
As the last 2 weeks' performance, what specific changes are you examining in personnel, coaching, and recruiting?
Man, we're going to evaluate everything. We constantly evaluate everything. I thought that the defense made some great adjustments from the Baylor week to 3 quarters of the first week. We got really banged up. Could have done a better job protecting the secondary, especially whenever we got the 13-point lead. But that's something that, I thought they did a good job adjusting. It's going to take a lot this week with the offense that we're about to play. They're very balanced whenever it comes to running and throwing the football. But we've got to constantly evaluate. Every aspect of the program to get better. We lose back-to-back games where you're sitting here and you're before the bye or going into the bye, you're undefeated. In the Big 12, you got 1 loss. You take a really bad loss coming out of the bye against Baylor, but then you play in a game against TCU to where you've got the lead, and that keeps you in the mix of the Big 12, to where now you're going into Iowa State with 1 loss and playing a team that is undefeated. Missed a huge opportunity. It kills me that we missed that opportunity for this team, for this university and this fan base, and I know I'm getting a lot of criticism, and again, everybody has their opinion, and as much sometimes I might not appreciate it, I do appreciate people's opinions, and I get it. But I promise you, there's nobody that's more frustrated than me whenever it comes to opportunities. Like I remember I'm sitting talking to a young corners coach in 2019, and we have a 28-point lead against OU, and we get beat 34-31, and he goes, man, we'll get them in the Big 12 championship. And I'm like, bro, you ain't coached long enough. Like, just because next year is next year doesn't mean that you're going to get the opportunity to be in this same position. You lose a quarterback, you get hurt. Like, you have to take advantage of the opportunities. That's what's frustrating. And then, again, I'm going to tell y'all, and, you can believe me or not believe me, there's no person on this earth that wants to win more for this fan base than me. It bothers me that people are upset. It bothers me. Not upset with me. Again, say whatever you want. It bothers me that because we couldn't take care of business on Saturday, that this is how people feel that are Red Raiders. It bothers me. So if you don't think it does or whatever it is, trust me, it does, and I'm going to get it fixed.
So what's your message to Red Raider Nation who are desperately wanting your and this team's success?
Yeah, we're going to keep building. We're going to keep fighting. That's what Red Raiders are. That's what we're going to do. The one thing that I told the team, there's a lot of things that are on the table. I know nobody wants to hear this, but this is what I said to the team yesterday. We have not won 4 consecutive bowl games since Mike Leach. Okay, it's 2024. So that was 2000 to 2010. We have an opportunity to do that. Texas Tech, in the history of Texas Tech, and I could be totally wrong about this, I go back to 1932, and I know we've been playing since 1925. Texas Tech has never won 4 consecutive bowl games. We have the opportunity to do that. All right? I believe that we can beat anybody on our schedule. Well, it's been since 2009 that Texas Tech's won 9 games. We have the opportunity to do that. So whenever we're sitting here, talking about, hey, where we are, where we've been, and where we need to go, we are pushing this program forward. We're going to find a way to do that. And, that I'm fired up about that. I'm not upset about any of that. I'm fired up about that because I want my guys to believe that, and they do. When we talked through yesterday, I met with the seniors and say, look, you have the opportunity to leave this place better than you found it when you came in. And they have. Just by winning 3 bowl games, they've made it better than what it was before. But we still have things to do. And so I don't want them, because we lose by a point and it's a frustrating loss and everybody feels like the sky's falling, And I think it's hit me 2 or 3 times that this is the end of the season. We still have a lot of things that we can do that haven't been done here or haven't been done in a long, long time. And so that's our message of how we keep pushing forward.
Go to Justin and Jared.
Coach, it seems like those kind of things you're talking about is about building momentum for, the rest of this season and trying to carry it into next season. I guess, what is the things that you're needing to do to, keep that momentum that you've had the last couple of years coming into the season?
Yeah, we've got to, it's easy to beat the defense up, when you look at the numbers, but we've got to continue to play better on defense. Just challenge the players and challenge me and the coaches. I felt like we've got out-tackled in space the last 2 games with Baylor and TCU, and so those are things that we're going to challenge the guys at. The other thing, too, I talked to the offensive line. They're a part of it. Why it's so important to me is I love Taj Brooks, and so it's important to me, but it's also important to me because I'm the head coach at Texas Tech. We have the opportunity to do that. I think that continues to build this program to where he's number 2 now and right behind Hanspard. Hanspard has 21 100-yard rushing. Taj has 19. Taj moved to number 9 all-time in the Big 12 rushing. He's got a chance this weekend to pass up one of the all-time great running backs, Adrian Peterson. And then, Gray and Hanspard are right there in front of him that we're so close. So going back to what I was talking about those are motivation factors for us. But whenever you're talking about what we have to do better, we have to do that. We've got to continue to protect the quarterback. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I thought that Caleb Douglas is doing it. We have to incorporate more people to have more explosive pass plays. I thought that Caleb gave us that in the game. Probably should have had another one that was right off his fingertips. You can replay that on TV and understand why he didn't catch that ball, and without me getting fined, make your own decision on exactly why he didn't catch that ball. But we've got to – that's one thing right now whenever you're looking at the numbers of offense and defense, which you're looking at the numbers of we've got to push the ball downfield a little bit more to get some more explosive plays, and Kitley and the staff know that on the offensive side of the ball. And then got to clean up some stuff on special teams. There was some stuff out there that we can do better. There was a big return that should have been Jacoby Williams, which is another young guy that really showed up and will continue to show up. But we've got a really huge opportunity to have him on the kicker late in the game on the kickoff, and our off returner and our tight end, don't pick up their blocks.
On the other side of the ball, the explosives that we kind of talked about Saturday night, I wanted to go back to them and see what you thought about specifically the post play. It seemed like the number 2 pulled your post safety.
Yeah.
I was curious if that was a schematic or if that was a execution thing.
Now, it was a call, schematic. We're in quarters, which turns in almost to zero coverage, and so we lost the free safety, he wasn't in great position. The second one, they went back shoulder fade, and he was in position. He was on top of the route, but the first one, that was more schematic. He got beat, so that, and then he doesn't have any help over the top of him, and that was a play, that was the same call that Harvey Dyson caused the sack fumble on. That was the same defensive call. You look back, and hindsight is whenever you're sitting there with a 13-point lead, do we drop 8 more? Do we protect to where the corners aren't on an island? Those are some of the things that we could have done to put us in a better situation.
Go Jared and Ty.
Coach, I know there's been a lot of talk about that last play, that fumble by Will, but a lot of people are curious, how much input do you have on a play like that, in a situation like that? And was there any consideration to be more aggressive in terms of going for the first down, considering the defensive struggles?
Yeah, because of I think there was a minute 30 left, and so now you're sitting there. whenever I was looking, there was two things. Like let's talk about two situations. Because the two situations that I go through my mind constantly right now is 4th and 3 on the 6. If you score right there, the game's probably over. You're up 17. And we've been extremely aggressive. We have not been as good on 4th down as what we were, especially year 1. And so my thought process is kick the field goal right here. Now they have to score 2 touchdowns to beat us. And us getting the ball back and just the amount of time, I felt good that they were going to have a hard time doing that. They didn't, because we gave up 14 points in like 4 plays. So going fast forward and back to yours is I felt like the way they were going to play that, because we were in field goal range, is that they were going to try to beat us with a field goal. They have kicking issues. And so that was our mindset of like, if we can get this kick here, then we're going to be able to defend enough to where we're going to be able to keep them out of field goal range or an easy chip shot. Even with that, they've had kicking issues. The thing that going back, and I talked to Kitley and it was my call on the 4th down. Kitley had a play ready for 4th and 3, and I said, no, we're going to kick the ball. I wish we could have pressed and should have pressed, but once we got in field goal range, we really did feel like that hey, we're going to make this field goal and win it. Whenever it comes to the call, it is a quarterback power. It is one of our staples. Y'all have seen us run it the last 3 years a lot with all the quarterbacks. I mean, if you go back, I bet we ran it 8 times in the first half against Oregon, with Tyler Shuck. And again, if it was a guy that didn't have the ability to run, we probably don't run it. It's easy to say, hey, let's put it in Taj's hand if we are in field goal range. But we felt good about the play. That was one play in a run schematically that could have picked up the first down because you gain an extra hat with Taj. So just handing it to Taj the way they were playing it, it was like, hey, maybe he busts it, maybe he doesn't, but we're going to kick it from there. We gained an extra hat with the quarterback power, so we felt like that we had an opportunity, to have a bigger play. The linebacker, 57 did a good job of contact with our tackle and didn't allow Will to follow Taj and come on outside. And so go back and watch that play again too. We got a fumble, but it's interesting of why he spun. And so you could slow it down, and I got it on my phone if you want to see it. But again, and he has a tendency to do that, of spinning. That's part of his running style. But, we talked about that too. But, and then whenever you do that, he's got 2 hands on the ball. He's got great ball security, and they put a helmet right on it and recover it. And then we get some stops. But, we're at that point now you're looking for chunk plays and lose the game.
You mentioned the 14 points in 4 plays. The secondary struggled all season.
Yeah.
It's been a liability. Did you have
133, which I think that's the max of where you can go, 133 in the country in pass defense. Yeah.
And there was a better rush Saturday.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't really as much of that, it seems like. Did you have an inkling that the secondary would struggle like this year going into the season? And why has it struggled, and what could be done this year?
Yeah, one thing that we're really struggling, like if you go back, so Mo Horn has a shoulder issue. So we're now to number 3, which he made some plays. I mean, there's 2 plays on their sideline that he's covering their number 1 guy, and he's knocking the ball out or riding him out. If you go back to the last play, you have a linebacker that should come free, and he chose to run down the middle of the running back, which has been one of our issues of not getting pressure. And that's a mixture of technique and coaching. And then on that same play, they throw back shoulder, Macho loses him, And the free safety, who's got an opportunity to get the ball down, if you watch it, thinks that Macho's going to get him down, so he slows up and then has to regather. It's almost like the play last year when Kansas has that long run to score. Rabbit does the same thing. He thinks that Jordan Sanford's going to get him down, and so he starts slowing down and has to regather, and that guy's already there. Where I think we made a huge mistake with a 13-point lead is, and we have it, we've done it, is now instead of worrying about pressure, giving them looks to, hey, you're going to have to drive the ball, drop 8, protect your corners, play Tampa 2, which we've done. You still can give up big plays in that, which we have, and people do it every week. But, whenever you're bringing pressure like we did on that last play, you're leaving your corner on an island and they hit a home run.
Go ahead, Ty.
Coach, after the game, Ben Roberts kind of said that the defense got a little relaxed in the fourth quarter, maybe a little bit of a lack of discipline. I'm curious to know how concerning you feel that is and why that's still an issue over halfway through the season.
Yeah, I think Ben is probably saying that to, put pressure on some of the players and, not probably throw anybody under the bus. I think, if you look through, there was nothing that we called in the fourth quarter that was different than what we were calling throughout the game. I thought they did a good job sticking to their game plan. Again, like Jarrett said, we did hit the quarterback more than we have since Arizona. We caused, which that's the one thing that's keeping us in the game. Whenever you're talking about defense, like turnovers, created. We're 25th in the country. We're 4th in the Big 12. So that's what's keeping us, defensively, where in some games like that. I think more than anything, whenever you start looking through that, if he's going to talk about the discipline or lack of discipline, I think it was more in the first quarter of the 14 points. Whenever you have a Wildcat quarterback that they've shown we've got a defense called into it and we don't fit it, lack of discipline. When you have anytime there's a receiver in the backfield, we call it imposter. Everybody does, and most everybody in the country calls it imposter. And we recognize imposter, but not one person's pointing it out. All 11 people should have known that 3's in the backfield whenever they run the shoot route for a touchdown. I think going back to that, we had at least lack of discipline in those 14 points than we did in the 14 points that we gave up in the fourth quarter.
I guess I'm curious to know, what's your coaching style when it comes to teaching that? Have you learned from anybody over your years of coaching how you kind of teach discipline that maybe they didn't catch the first time along?
Yeah, I think you've got to adjust. You've got to the great thing now, you have the iPads. You wished it would show up better at different times on offense and defense, but you get to see that, and then you got to make adjustments. And, whenever we didn't, I go back to that fourth quarter when you have that 13-point lead. See, the other thing, that we always show, and y'all have heard me talk about this, but, we have a plan to win that got through different coaches, and I've had the majority of that plan to win for 30 years. When you win the plan to win, so we tied or won 5 of the 7 categories, and the only time that I've done that and lost the game was in 2019 against OU, 34-31. So in 30 years, whenever you win or tie 5 of the 7 categories, you're whatever that percentage is of ever how many games I've been in, you're going to win the game. And the big one is win the fourth quarter. We got outscored in the fourth quarter 14-3, and that was the difference in the game.
Anybody else?
Either one, man. We got it.
Okay, I was just gonna ask. So Hammond stepped in. Everyone overall, I say he had a pretty good game, especially kind of being thrown in there like that. I was just wondering, did you see maybe any mentoring going on between like Barron and Hammond on the sidelines, particularly during that fourth quarter fumble that he had? Just talk about the connection between those two.
that's a great room. We took all 4 of our quarterbacks, and I mean, anytime that we have an injury and the guy can come back on the sideline, I always go up to him and say, hey, make sure you're in a position that you're playing this game with your eyes to help the guy coming back over. So I said that to Barron. I thought Barron did a good job of that, but it was really cool to see that room rally around him when you're talking about Cam Brown, who at different times has played, you know, and then even Jake Strong, you know, who hadn't got to play this year, but, you know, played last year. So you really, we even talked about that this morning, you know, for our staff meeting. I was sitting in Kitley's office and we were going through just talking about our quarterbacks, and he even commented, he goes, man, it was really cool to see how the 3 of them rallied around Will, you know, to keep him calm and you know, what he was seeing. I mean, again, that guy, I mean, he came in and for a true freshman played at a really high level, you know, and will only get better with the reps that he gets in a game.
Go, Jared. You'll finish with Don.
Sticking with that room, is there any consideration, given how the offense looked when Will played, that he could possibly take over the offense, or is Barron the guy if he's healthy?
No, Barron's a guy if he's healthy, man. I think he's, you know, even if you go back, I mean, Barron put us in a point to where it's 17-14, you know, in the first quarter. I mean, number-wise, as far as taking care of the football, the number of touchdowns that he's thrown, you know, it'll be interesting because he's pretty sore now. I mean, we are structurally sound, but I imagine he would tell you he wouldn't want to go play a football game today, you know. And so I'm not ruling out playing Will Hammond on Saturday, you know. I wouldn't rule that out at all, but I'm not going to rule out Barron Morton playing either, you know, where I would tell you up until I saw him on yesterday, I would have been like, yeah, he might be out for a couple of weeks. But once we did everything, x-rays, MRIs, everything like that, we felt a lot better about where he's at.
Hypothetically, if Barron can't go, what would the QB depth chart look like behind this Will?
Yeah, it would be Will. We would start Will, and then we'd go Cam Brown and Jake. We'll take all 4 quarterbacks to Iowa State.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Coach Will.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all.
After these last 2 weeks' performance, how do you evaluate your defense and the personnel that you have that are healthy?
Well, obviously we haven't performed very well. I liked how we competed this last week. I thought it was 2 different weeks. We did a much better job pressuring the quarterback, created a couple takeaways, but you can't give up the big plays that we did. And we got to continue to work the fundamentals. We got to understand, and I've got to do a better job of having guys understand when, receivers in the backfield, to be able to see that and be able to communicate that, so that we don't get the bad matchups. There's a few things we got to work, and we've got a young, group of guys we're working with that have some talent. We got to get better at coaching them.
How has the communications evolved these last couple of weeks, and how do you see them improving?
Having Chat back helped. He's a guy that's got some snaps. His communication was not perfect, but much better. When you have a different rotation of guys, obviously communication can be an issue, but that one in particular, we've got to see that in the front. The safeties aren't necessarily seeing what the number of the running back is back there. They just see a body, but we've got to do a much better job of recognizing that.
And what's your message to the fan base who is so desperately wanting this team's success?
Well, my message is, there's nobody in our locker room or our coaching staff that wants it any less than they do. And I appreciate the fact that we've got very passionate fans and love the fact that they come and they're a factor when they come. I hope they realize we got a team that's fighting and scrapping, and, we were down 14-3, our guys made plays to get back in the game to take a lead. We got to find a way to finish, and I got to help our guys with calls.
Coach, what do you believe went into just having the struggles with giving up explosives against TCU last weekend?
Well, a couple things. You got to give them credit. They've got some good receivers. They've been averaging 300 and whatever yards a game passing for a reason. But more so than that, we had some technique issues, and then just recognition issues that we've got to do a better job of coaching that.
Yeah, it seemed like on the post your post safety got pulled. Coach said y'all weren't quarters in that play, and I guess I asked him if it was schematical or if it was execution. I'm curious what your thought was on that big post to back.
To me, it's execution. We got to continue to have our guys understand when we're in quarters, we're a true quarters team, and so you got to stay in your quarter. And we have, obviously different variations of calls that we have where we're going to drill things, and now you're playing it more like man, and that was not the case there. And we've got to continue to drill it and have guys understand so that the quarters can trust when I have safety help.
Looking ahead to this weekend, I guess, what are your thoughts on Rocco Becht and that Iowa State offense that seems to be able to run the ball pretty well?
Yeah, no, they do a great job of being balanced, very, very multiple personnel. They're going to find ways to run the football, create extra gaps. They can be, a zone team as well as a power, team with gap scheme stuff. Quarterback gets involved in the running game, and then their passing game, a lot of their, normal down and distance stuff is all derived off of the play actions. But they're going to explode guys out and be in no backs. They're going to bring them back in, get in power sets. So, you think you want to check the stuff, but they're going to create a lot of communications issues. So it's really impressive what they've done. They've been running similar version. They have a new play caller, but similar version of this same scheme. They've added some more power game, added some more two-back stuff, and it's very difficult to prepare for, as you can see by the numbers. They're doing a nice job, and they've got 2 excellent receivers in 9 and 13. They're NFL guys that can really run, and 9's a little bit more physical guy, big guy, kind of like what we just saw this last weekend. They've got a stable of backs that run extremely hard. 2 bigger guys, and then 12's a scat back who's kind of a knuckleballer. It changes the look, and they're massive up front, and a lot of times he gets hidden behind those guys and then can squirt out and can really burst. So a lot of things to get prepared for, and just like I said, a different challenge every week. And this is very different than one we just faced.
Coach, lost in the result and the late game struggles was an outstanding performance by Harvey Dyson. What allowed him to turn in such a good performance?
You know, he really had a great spring last spring and in fall camp, and he just keeps working his craft, and he's got to be more consistent. We've got to do a better job, I think, of spelling him some. He played a lot of snaps. I think Terrell Tillman's doing some good things as well, and so we've got to maybe get him some more normal down and distance snaps so that Harvey can be fresher at the end of the game, because that's where he had some breakdowns. But he's been a guy who can work edges. He's a guy that can do the things we ask him to. He can drop into coverage. You know, getting that tip to Chap on the interception was a huge play. You know, I like his progression. He's practicing hard, and we got to continue to do that. You know, you get this point in the season, sometimes guys get banged up, but we got to practice hard. So it's a tough dichotomy. We got to push our guys through. I really believe that our guys came out and fought and competed, especially early, well, because of how we practiced. And, you know, when our guys have been backed into corners, you know, in the last 3 years, our guys have come out fighting, and I expect our guys to do the same thing this week.
Like you said, the defense did battle, fought, but in the end, the secondary gave up explosive plays again. It seems like that's been a problem all year. I guess the question is, why has the secondary struggled to cover this season?
Well, you know, I think a little bit of it is we haven't had a consistent group back there. You know, that's part of it, but it's not an excuse. It doesn't matter who's back there. We've got to do a better job of coaching those guys up. And it starts with me. And you know, having guys understand where their help is, having understand leverage. You know, Chap did some great things after, you know, not having practiced the last couple of weeks, but on that last play where they score, you know, the touchdown, he takes a bad angle. He's not high enough in the post where he can break downhill. He hesitates thinking that Mach is going to make the tackle, and then it's too late. And so, you know, we've got to get guys to understand how critical every single snap is. In a game like that, there's going to be about a handful of plays that make the difference in the ball game. And if we could have made one of those plays, maybe it's a different result, and likely a different result. So we just got to keep working to fix those things.
Jim, another X's and O's question. Going back to when Savion was in the backfield as the imposter, as Joey describes it, on the 75-yard touchdown pass where he comes out of the backfield up the middle. What if you're drawing that up in the room? What is that your coverage supposed to look like? Was Ben supposed to recognize and have him all the way down the field, or is there supposed to be help deep?
Yeah, what should have happened is when they recognize the imposter, because normally when you're in split safety defense and it's 2x2, the Mike has the back, but typically he's not running the tube route. And so when he goes down the tube, he's going to take him. Well, obviously you don't want that matchup with the receiver. We get it identified. We make a stress call, and now wherever the side of the safety is, they play a different technique where they're going to split 2-3 and the corner's going to split 1-2. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that was a communication issue then, or was it
Correct.
communicated and somebody still didn't?
It was not communicated.
Coach, you guys finally broke through in the pass rush for 3 sacks. Did it feel like you guys figured something out finally, or what was working?
You know, a couple things. I think Harvey had a great rush on the one. You know, he beat his man, and on the front had a really good push there. You know, so it all goes together. And then the other side, you know, kept that quarterback in the pocket. Did a great job stripping the ball and getting it. You know, we zero blitzed him on the one and did a good job of holding our water and getting BJ free through there. But we had some guys, you know, beat their men as well. You know, pass rush is something we work every single day that we're in pads on. And to be able to get there and you know, see some fruits to your effort, you know, was obviously gratifying. And we've got to continue to do that and continue to get better at it.
Time for one or two more.
Coach, just curious on your thoughts on Iowa State and just their offense.
Yeah, I was just going through it. Very multiple. They're going to be in what we call 12 personnel, one back, two tights, the majority of the time. But they're also going to be in one back, one tight, one back, three tights, and then they've got some exotics. They'll go one back, four. They'll go three tight ends, but they'll bring an extra tackle in. And so there's a lot of what we call issue plays and issue formations that you've got to be able to adjust to, and you have to make communication checks to line up properly. So one, they've got good players. Two, they've got very good schemes that challenge you mentally and communication wise. And they've got a trigger guy that's played a lot of snaps now and plays with a lot of moxie. He's a guy that can beat you with his feet. He's got a live arm. And he's one of those guys that seems to have a knack for getting them in the right play and find ways to make plays to move the sticks or score.
All right, thank you, Coach. We'll bring up Kelly next. All right, who wants to go? Justin? John? Go ahead, Justin.
Coach, I'm really curious about what you thought about what Will Hammond was able to do in the second half. Seemed like he put some balls in some good windows and really looked sharp, in my opinion. So I'm curious what you thought.
Yeah, I was fired up for him, man. I thought he came in and did a good job. A couple things late, some stuff we got to clean up. But, overall, I thought he came in, those first three drives, drove us down, got 17 points. The thing about him is his preparation and stuff like that he goes through. His teammates see that. And so, our guys didn't flinch, we didn't flinch, and he came out and did a really good job. So, again, there's always stuff to clean up, some stuff late. But overall, very proud of him, came in, kind of came out firing, and it was good to see.
In the totality of the game, it seemed like to me that the multiple fronts and the things that they're doing near the snap really changed the picture for you guys, especially in the run game. I was curious about just what you thought, was such a struggle for you guys moving the ball on the ground, especially the first half.
Yeah, you hit it. They were very multiple, stemmed a lot, which we knew. And man, we didn't do a great job of getting some stuff ID'd at times. And we had some of those runs where, you're super close, it feels like, to really busting one, and we just didn't get those. I want to say our longest run of the day was 12 yards, and that came on Jacoby Williams coming in on a pin and pull scheme late. But yeah, no, they did a really good job. And again, I was, nervous about that kind of going in with all the different fronts they had. And we got to do a better job of IDing it and getting that coach up on the sideline. And, again, I thought we made some halftime adjustments and we came out running the ball a little bit better in the second half. But yeah, it was tough sledding, man. And then, you get up there, 17 points or whatever. So you're trying to run the clock a little bit. And, we, like I said, thought we did a little bit better in the second half, but early on they really had our number.
It seems like the last couple of weeks you guys haven't been able to make a ton of guys miss in space. They've really tackled well against you. This is another defense that's excellent tacklers in space. I guess, what's the thought process going into this week, trying to find some more explosives?
Yeah, you're right on, man. These guys are extremely well coached. They come downhill and tackle. That's their whole scheme, right? Is to get the ball down with those safeties or those corners when they fit. To the boundary. So again, man, at some point, we are going to have to make somebody miss. I think we've done a good enough job of giving some opportunities like that. And like you said, man, the teams have been tackling us really well. And so we've got to be ready to make somebody miss. We've got to try to do a good job schematically of trying to find some push crack windows and maybe trying to take two and some stuff like that. Again, this is our fourth defensive structure like this we're going to face this year. So, clearly, we've had some success against it, but these guys are going and studying that film and seeing what we're doing, and they're going to have some adjustments for us too. So, again, going to come down to us trying to hat up the box first and foremost, and then again, man, we get to that third level player. Those safeties, we got to try to make one miss here and there, and then pick on them with some RPOs as well.
Sean, followed by Don.
Coach, what are the specific traits that Will Hammond has shown that made him the perfect choice to be Barron's backup?
Yeah, leadership, work ethic, toughness, character. A lot of stuff, man. He's up here every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, early in the morning. I'd say around 7 a.m., maybe before that, up in there watching film, working to get better. We do our walkthroughs, and Barron's in there getting the reps with the ones, and he's standing right behind me, operating the exact same play that Barron's doing. He's a football junkie. He loves ball. And man, he's got just a presence about him that's just comes natural to him as a natural leader. And I think that's the biggest thing, And again, I think that he's just done such a good job being here in the spring and then all fall camp. And when he's in the spring, he got a lot of reps with the ones because Barron was out, for part of that spring. And so I think those guys had some confidence in him too, and that helped his confidence with him being able to get a lot of those reps in the spring.
With that being said, would you consider being more aggressive in your play calling with Will, with him being able to be that gunslinger?
I don't know if you'd say more aggressive by any means. Now he brings a little different element with his legs a little bit, and again, I think you saw that in the second half, just being able to do some stuff with him running the football. But as far as passing the football, I mean, he is a gunslinger. Barron's got that to him as well. Again, we gotta connect on some more deep balls. I thought we were close on a couple more in the game on Saturday, and you're a fingertip away from having another touchdown there, and we got to deliver on those. But as far as that goes, the aggression, I mean, it's going to stay the same. Now, some of the quarterback run game stuff would be implemented a little bit more. And again, not a world you want to live in, but just to keep the defense on its heels.
What is your message to Red Raider fan base who is desperately wanting yours and this team's success?
Yeah, I mean, just stick with us, man. I mean, I'm frustrated. I've been around this place for a long time, man. I love this place. I love Texas Tech. I love West Texas. I love Lubbock. I love these fans. Nothing makes me happier than getting to play a home game in front of 60,000 of them. And I promise you that this staff, these student athletes here, we're working to get it right. We fell short the last couple of games, but just stick with us. And I think really bright days at Texas Tech football are ahead.
Zach, it might have to do with all the different defensive fronts that you talked about a moment ago, but I was interested in why y'all didn't seem like you ran nearly as much counter on Saturday, like the GY double pullers. That's such a staple for your offense.
Yeah, they were giving us fits. We got into it early, and we were just we weren't getting them had it up the right way. And so if you go back and look, we were having negative runs, and they were gaming us up and giving us a bunch of different looks, and the inside zone stuff was just a safer call, to be honest with you. Not as much movement. Guys are, on their gap or on their zone tracks versus their gap tracks. And, we're getting our face crossed on some back blocks and some stuff like that, man, and those really hurt you. We got to a power a couple times, and that was our better gap scheme of the day when we got to our power package there. But ultimately, just the inside zone was a little bit safer for us.
Speaking of freshmen, and you talked about what Will presents differently. What about what you saw Jacoby on Saturday when he was it looked like kind of pressed into action?
Yeah, he's a dynamic football player. I think he's gonna bring a lot of stuff to us here in the future. He's more of your scat back, if you will. Really good at outside zone. Get him on the perimeter a little bit, and he can make you miss. That, like I was kind of talking about the 12-yard pin and pull scheme we had to him, man. I mean, I was for certain he was going to make a one cut and make that guy miss and go score. That's what we've seen by him. And, man, he's just another great young man that's really tough and works hard. And again, I think, he's going to bring a lot to the table in the passing game as well. And so, again, he's doing a good job.
I asked Joey this last week about whether he felt the offense felt more pressure to score with kind of how the defense is playing. He said no, but he was going to kind of keep an eye on it. What about you? Do you change how you kind of call a game based on what the defense is being successful at, or maybe coming up short in to keep the ball in your hands a little bit more?
I mean, to a certain extent, but one thing that we try to do every week, and Coach McGuire talks to us about this, Thursday staff meeting, Friday staff meeting, Saturday before the game. Let's find what kind of game it is, and let's go win that football game no matter what that is, And so at the end of the day, it's my job to score one more point than the opponent, and we didn't get that done this week. Where I'm more frustrated from this last week is I thought in the first half we struggled to put the ball in the end zone when we had multiple opportunities and we didn't get that done, and that's on me. We got down there inside the 5-yard line and we can't put it in the end zone, and Coach Perry saved us with the fake field goal there. But we've got to be ultimately better there, and so, again, I thought we came out firing in the second half there and we got the lead. And, again, I think certain situations in the game changes your play calls. You know, when you get a lead like that, you're hoping to milk some clock and keep the ball away from those guys. But again, we're going to go out with the game plan that we have, and you know, go through the aggression with the fourth down and stuff as we see fit and some of those things. But as far as the pressure part goes, I mean, we got to go score points, you know, and that's going to be week in and week out. And again, at the end of the day, we got to try to find a way to score one more than the other team.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you about that last play, the fumble by Will, just to give you opportunity to explain why you called that call and your thought process. Asked McGuire about it earlier, but just want to get your input.
Yeah, you know, I want to say it was either 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8. We kind of felt like they were going to play coverage in that particular scenario, and we were right on that. You know, they came out in a 4-1 box and played cover 4 on us. And so the thought process there was get Taj Brooks out on the nickel, get the Mike linebacker pinned, get Davion Carter onto the safety, and have a chance for a huge play right there. And we just didn't get that Mike linebacker pinned. He blew the play up. Will ended up spinning inside of it. And, man, the guy just hit the helmet right on the ball, you know. I mean, we felt like we had the right play call, felt good about it, me including the offensive staff. We, you know, talked about it at that time out right there. It's what we felt good about. Again, we had kind of had tough sledding just handing the ball off, you know, up the gut right there. And we felt like they were going to drop coverage, and so we felt like a quarterback run right there was the right call.
You touched on it, but does your play calling or the playbook change at all, hypothetically, if Will goes Saturday instead of Barron?
As far as the pass goes, it'll be the same stuff that we're going to game plan for. But, again, I think you do have the element of quarterback run a little bit more just with, you know, Will's ability to run. You know, he's got the nickname around here, Will's Hammond, because he can roll pretty good. So, but, again, I mean, you know, schematically what these guys are showing, I mean, it's a tough defense, period. And so we're going to have a great plan. And but, yeah, I think that'd be the biggest thing is some little bit stuff different in the run game. And, again, it's not one of those things where you want to go and have to try to run him 20 times. You want to keep running Taj Brooks 25, 30 times and use those quarterback runs when necessary.
Does he have as much freedom at the line of scrimmage to change plays or not?
Yeah, right now he does, you know, and again, I think, you know, last week he didn't attack a whole lot of things, you know, just because of the multiplicity of what they were doing and what they were showing us. And we tried to, you know, simplify some of the run checks and some of that last week because of the different fronts and all that. You know, this week I think it'll be a little bit easier for those guys to see structurally where they're at, you know, just because they usually line up for the most part kind of in the same places. Then they post-snap will change in coverage and some of that. But, again, man, I feel confident with him going in there, and yeah, he'd have full reins of the offense if he gets to go.
You mentioned what Jacoby brings, but is it possible with the heavy workload on Taj that he might be getting a heavier workload himself?
Yeah, you could see it. I mean, you know, I think you saw it last week. You know, Taj, you know, just took a couple hits there. You know, when you get 30 carries, you're gonna be beat up a little bit, and so you know, Jacoby's kind of been that guy that's come in next. And so, again, you know, we'll see how the flow of the game goes. And, you know, this one's going to be interesting this week. You know, we're expecting some heavy rain and some cooler weather and some of that stuff. So it's going to be maybe one of those grinded out type games. And if that's the case, you want 28 back there because that's what he's really good at. But, you know, at the same time, like I said, Jacoby Williams is one cut away from popping a 60-yard touchdown run. So, again, I see him kind of being that spell guy for Taj when Taj needs a blow, and we'll kind of keep that going.
Coach, all the positives that were said about Cam Brown at the beginning of the year, I guess, was it that he was doing some things wrong, or was Will just doing so many things right? What went into that decision to put Will there instead of Cam? Yeah,
you know, I mean, you know, throughout camp, you know, those guys competed it out, and I felt like Cam had the upper hand, you know, in fall camp. And what I kept doing, though, is throughout the season when we get in, you know, the ones in this offense get the majority of the repetition here. And so the twos get, you know, a little bit. And I was splitting those 2 reps between those guys. And, you know, after those first three weeks, I just felt like Will kept climbing. And not that Cam was doing bad, but just Will just kind of got a really good grasp on the offense. And then, you know, we came out against North Texas, and they both had some opportunities to go out there. And I thought Will, you know, just made a little bit more of his opportunities going out there. And ever since then, it's just kind of been that way. And they're still splitting some reps. You know, Cam still gets some twos reps as well every week. But Will's going to be the backup moving forward.
And I know when you guys were recruiting Cam, it was, you know, you had the conversation, you're competing for the number 2 spot.
Yep.
I guess with him now being in the 3, do you still see that same drive in him?
Oh, yeah, he's awesome, man. I mean, he's I love my quarterback room. I love all 4 of those guys. We've got a great room. We have a lot of fun in there. It's kind of fun. Both came in at the same time, and like Cam Brown and Will Hammond are like best friends, and it's awesome to see 2 guys from completely different backgrounds, but they just hit it off, man. And Will's got a big personality, but Cam's got like the biggest personality of anybody on the team, and so they're a lot of fun around each other, and they've been great, man. Like I said, I mean, it was really fun to see when Barron went down and it was Will's turn to go in, those guys giving him juice and giving him energy and saying they believed in him. That was Jake Strong, Cam Brown. Barron came out after getting in the sling and some of those things, and he was positive out there. And so that's what's fun, man. You got a quarterback room that's a room of unselfish guys that love each other, that are here for the right reasons. And at the end of the day, it's to win football games, and at that position, one guy plays, unless something crazy happens, right? And we've got a great room, and they love each other, and it's been awesome.
We'll have one more today with
Coach, real quick, I was just curious about what you thought has been the issues in the low red zone. Because it seems like that's happened a couple times this season where you guys haven't been able to punch it in. One going into the north end zone here, one in the south end zone here, and then obviously on Saturday.
Yeah, the first one, that first play in the game, I felt like we had it up pretty good. I think maybe we could have maybe bounced that one out the back door. We didn't get that done. And then the second play we had right there, man, it was frustrating because we didn't operate the play. It was supposed to be kind of like a shock 'em, line up, get them out of whack type deal. And then, we had Micah one-on-one on the fade, and we didn't have great mechanics at quarterback, and I think that's why that ball kind of failed out of the back of the end zone. And then the last one, man, they did a good job covering up. It just reverts back to me, going back through and making sure I'm detailed in my game plan when we get down there. And, we've been able to have some success of just getting in our 13 personnel sets and putting our big boys down there and running the ball. Since really ACU, we had the one against Cincinnati, but other than that, we've been able to have some success. So we've got to maybe try to get back some of that. And, I'll probably need to just kind of keep trying to lean on 28 a little bit and just give them the rock, whether that's 3 times in a row or whatever. But, I just got to be better down there.